He understood me. Death of China's former premier sparks the mourning and the way to air frustration with the Xi era. CNN. The sudden death of China's former premier Li Keqiang has spurred an outpouring of grief and mourning across the country, but for many it also appears to offer a rare opening to air pent-up discontent with the top leader Xi Jinping and the direction he has taken the country. Li, who served as Xi's nominal second in command for a decade until March this year, death died of the sudden heart attack at age 68 last week in Shanghai, according to a state media. He was cremated in Beijing on Thursday after a brief farewell ceremony attended by top officials. His death, just a month after his retirement, shocked the Chinese public. Tributes have flooded the country's tightly controlled internet, while a sea of yellow and white banquet left in makeshift memorials have sprung up outside his childhood residence and other places connected to his past. On social media posts and handwritten notes tucked in between the floor of tribute, many people commemorated Li for his unrealized aspirations rather than his policy achievement. Widely seen as being sidelined by Xi, China's most powerful leader in the generation, Li was considered one of the weakest premiers in Communist China's history. So instead, many mourners have focused on Li's unfulfilled visions, which in their view could have led China on a much different path than the one it has trodden over in the past decade. People use this opportunity to express disaffection with Xi Jinping, said Alfred Wu, associated professor at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy in Singapore. It's a kind of anger towards the current regime. A highly educated, reform-minded pragmatist, Li was once seen as the contender for China's top job, but he ended up as the premier, a role traditionally in charge of the economy. Normally, that position comes with significant influence in the world's second largest economy, but Li saw his policymaking power gradually eclipsed by Xi, who has centralized control and moved away from the ruling Communist Party's collective leadership of more recent decades. To many people, Li represents the potential for the alternative China, less ideologically driven, less authoritarian, and more embracing of market reforms, entrepreneurship, and connections with the outside world. The bouquet of flowers laid in tribute to former Premier Li Keqiang outside his childhood residence in Anhui Province, China on October 28, 2023. Mourners shared Li's own words as the tribute to him, but also as the no so subtle criticism of Xi. Among the most cited was the pledge from Li that China's reform and opening will never stop, in the same way that the Yellow River and the Yangtze River will not flow backward. Another of Li's quotes was mentioned widely as the veiled reminder that the leader's actions will be judged by history. The heavens are watching what people are doing. Zhang Lun, a professor of Chinese studies at YC Surgery, Paris University in France, said the wave of tribute reflected the growing discontent towards the Xi's retrogressive policies over the past decade. The ever tightening ideological control, the ever shrinking personal freedoms, and the incessant political campaigns that hark back to the era of the Mao Zedong, the founder of Communist China. The large part of the frustration also stemmed from 3 years of Xi's strict zero-COVID policy, which battered the economy and subjected millions of Chinese to constant tests, quarantines, and citywide lockdowns. Those tough restrictions were lifted abruptly after mass protests broke out across the country. Adding to the frustration is an ongoing sense of confusion and hopelessness about the future, spurred by China's economic downturn and inward turn from the world. And these sentiments are looking for an outlet, Zhang said. Although Li was not such a high achieving historical or political figure, he offered the people an opportunity to vent their dissatisfaction, said Zhang, who studied at the prestigious Peking University with Li in the late 1970s after the end of the Mao's Cultural Revolution. In an era where truth is silenced and the first big and empty statement prevail, the Beijing principles that Li Keqiang adhered to have become very precious things. A show of the Beijing conscience, a few honest words are enough to earn the thumbs up from the public. It reflects people's anger, despair, and dissatisfaction with reality, which is all projected onto Li, he said. Among supporters, Li was remembered as the leader who cared about the less privileged and was willing to speak up for them, even if it jarred up with the party's more Trump-pant relative. On social media, many users thanked Li for publicly acknowledging that 600 million Chinese people, or roughly 40% of the population, still had the monthly income of just 10 yuan, $137, despite the official propaganda hailing Xi's victory in the eliminating poverty. Only he understood me, one highly rated comment read before it later disappeared. I've not had a stable job for 4 years. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang visited the Yangtze River embankment in the central city of Wuhan in July 2016 after a deadly flood that killed more than 100 people and left scores missing in the region. A friendly face. Over the past decade, Chinese people became used to seeing Li during times of hardship and tragedy. He was often the most senior party official dispatched to share condolences and shake hands with those affected by natural disasters, be it a flood, an earthquake, or a pandemic. When COVID-19 exploded in the central Chinese city of Wuhan in early 2020, it was Li who went there nearly 2 months before she made the same trip after the virus was largely contained in the city. Many mourners reminiscence about Li's down-to-earth style and empathy. They shared videos capturing his spontaneous interactions with the young people during his many workouts, which tended to cut a stark contrast to Xi's often uptight public demeanor. In one such video that went viral at the time and reshared this week, Li memorably appeared without a face mask at a university in Yunnan province in May last year, when many local governments are tightening zero-COVID restrictions to avoid Shanghai's 2 month lockdown. Bidding farewell to the crowd of students, Li wishes them luck in finding their dream job, which was seen by many young people as the comforting, albeit indirect acknowledgement of their struggle with the record youth unemployment. She, in contrast, has admonished the youngsters to abandon their pampered ways and eat bitterness, a Chinese saying for enduring hardship. In another piece of old footage shared online this year, Lee was asked by the university students for the hard handshake so that he could brag to others using a crass internet slang that would have been frowned upon by party propagandists. But Lee extended his hand at the students and asked with a smile, "Have you succeeded in the bragging now?" Wu, the expert in Singapore, said Li showed a humane side that is increasingly rarely seen within China's bureaucracy. Everyone looks like a machine with no personal feeling, no empathy at all. But he looked different, and people remembered that, he said. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang visited the hospital in Wuhan on January 27, 2020, days after the city was placed under the complete lockdown to curb the raging COVID-19 outbreak. Party leader deaths are often a sensitive moment. In China, the death of the senior leader is often the complicated and challenging moment for the ruling Communist Party, with open criticism of the regime tightly suppressed and severely punished. Public mourning for the popular official can become a rallying point for people to air disaffection with the leadership. When Zhu Enlai, a beloved premier under Mao, died in 1976, the grieving public took part in massive memorials to channel their discontent with the Cultural Revolution that had unleashed a decade of upheaval, violence, and chaos. More than a decade later, the death of Hu Yaobang, a sidelined reformist leader, triggered mass mourning that snowballs into pro-democracy protests on Beijing's Tiananmen Square and dozens of other Chinese cities. That movement, led by university students, ended in the bloody military crackdown that killed hundreds, if not thousands, of demonstrators and ushered in another period of ideological conformity. The Communist Party, which under Xi has drastically boosted its surveillance power, is once again on the offensive over the recent deceased leader, curtailing and shaping the tribute online and in real life. On social media, censors have scrubbed videos and posts that show the least reformist leanings or any other qualities that could draw unfavorable comparison with Xi. Weibo, a popular microblogging site, blocked searches for "Sadly It's Not You," a love song by Malaysian singer Fish Leong. In recent years, whenever a world leader died, some Chinese users have used the breakup song to express a similar sentiment. Mourners paid tribute to former Premier Li Keqiang outside his childhood residence under the watch of government workers. Outside Li's childhood residence in Hebei, a provincial capital of Anhui in eastern China, rows of government workers stood guard over the mourning crowd, urging people not to linger and examining cards attached to their bouquet, according to eyewitness posts and posts on social media. Local authorities were also monitoring and keeping a presence at other major sites of mourning, including Li's ancestral home in a remote village in Anhui and the downtown square in Jiangsu, a provincial capital of Henan in central China, where Li served as the top official 2 decades ago. In other cities, bouquets and notes have appeared sporadically on university campuses, public squares, and waterfront parks, but some have been cleared away. according to social media post. Lee's remains were cremated in Beijing on Thursday after a farewell ceremony attended by Chinese officials as well as family and friends. Censors have continued to scrub online posts about Lee, including videos showing residents bidding farewell to Lee's heirs driving through the streets of central Beijing and mourners gathering outside the ceremony where Lee was buried. On Weibo, some users sought to evade censorship by posting about the former premier on the page of Li Wenliang, a whistleblower doctor who died of COVID in Wuhan in 2020. Flags are flying at half-mast across the country, but we cannot do anything except bow and bid him farewell, one user wrote. There are no trending topic about Lee. They want all of us to search for anything. It's unbearable, wrote another. Zhang, the expert in France, said Chinese authorities would be cautious in handling public sentiment and avoid actions that might fuel anger. While the mourning for Li is unlikely to trigger a mass protest movement at this point, it could nonetheless become one of the many episodes paving the way for one in the future. After the brief venting of this content, the public frustration will continue to build, as Zhang said. Li's death has dashed all hope for the potential alternative, and the sense of the despair also will only accumulate and add to more uncertainty for the future.